Welcome everyone, my name is John, and together with a friend I recently came back from the Everest Base Camp Trek, a 9-day journey with helicopter return. While preparing for this trip, I found a lot of valuable and insightful information in the form of videos, vlogs and blogs about the trek all across the web. So I really wanted to give back to the community by sharing some tips and recommendations from our trip. The video will cover 1, itinerary and trek difficulty and conditions. Number 2, the altitude sickness and acclimatization. Number 3, packing, some of the items to bring, some not to bring. And finally, guest houses. In regards to the itinerary, you're going to find a breakdown of each day in the video description, with info about routes, distances, how long we trekked, and key challenges or particularities encountered. In terms of overall difficulty, EBC is much less about technical climbing and a lot more about endurance, handling high altitude, and powering through 9 to 15 days of long but relatively easy trekking. Days will pile up, altitude will inevitably hit you at some point, and amenities throughout the trek are very basic. So make sure you're in good physical and mental shape and well stocked with the right gear and items. For this trip, I counted on dedicated training to lose some upper body muscles and focus more on cardio and lower body. Better diet and limited to no alcohol 1 month prior to the trip. Diamox from 2 days prior to the trip all the way through to the last day. And finally, a longer, more balanced journey with acclimatization days as we went up in altitude. Things went a lot better and I only had mild altitude sickness and nausea twice during the trip, from which I recovered within hours. We made it to the summit of Kalapatar, and only on the last day as we were flying out did my body show signs of fatigue. All in all, a pretty decent experience. So, what to pack? Well, I won't be sharing an exhaustive list of what to pack, as you can already find plenty of these lists online. I will actually put one in the video description made by someone else who I thought was quite interesting and insightful. What I shall mention, however, are some top items to bring, some good to have, but that you can also buy there, and some not so useful items. So, top items or must bring. Number 1 is a water bottle. I went for the Nalgene 1 liter plastic water bottle. I think it's the most versatile, most suitable for this kind of trek, so I very much recommend it. Number 2 is going to be about layers. Of course, we're going to be in an environment where there's a lot of changes in weather and temperature, so it's super important to have a lot of different layers that you can alternate and adjust based on the temperature. When it goes to layers, I would go with merino wool as much as you can. I'm fairly new to merino wool, to be honest, but realistically they're the best material for these kind of trips. Whether it's socks, underwear, or any of your upper body layers, go for merino wool. Number 3 is going to be underwear and socks. They don't weigh much, they don't take up too much space, so I personally don't think it's necessary to do the whole trip with 1 or 2 pairs of socks or underwear. You could certainly bring a couple more. Number 4 is going to be strong protection sunnies to avoid sun blindness if it gets snowy in particular, and of course heavy sunscreen. We made the mistake of bringing FPS 30 if I recall correctly. I wouldn't bring anything below 50 and ideally something above that. Number 5, a good range of painkillers and Diamox. You never know what kind of issues you're going to have up there, so the more stocked you are on medicines, painkillers and Diamox, the better. And finally, your preferred snacks. You don't have to overstock on snacks, but bringing some of your favorite ones, whether it's protein bars or beef jerky, I think is going to be a good idea. Good to have, but that you can buy there. Certainly toilet paper and wet wipes. Of course, incredibly important, very useful, but there is no need to stock up like crazy. You can bring some and then add to that in case you need more. There's going to be enough of it in any of the guest houses you're going to stay at throughout the trek, so feel free to restock as you climb. Number 2, snacks. Again, as I mentioned, feel free to bring some of your preferred and favorite snacks. You don't have to stock up like crazy. You can always complement your snacks as you go up the trek. So in the not so useful items, I've placed number 1, too many sweaters, zippers or jumpers. Realistically, you only need 2. 1 to use when you're trekking and a second one to keep clean that you can only use in the evenings when you're at the guest houses. Sure, you can bring a third one in case something happens to one of them, it breaks or it gets wet or it gets damaged, but I would say no more than 3 and you're probably okay with 2. Number 2 is going to be water purifier tablets. Sure, they can be useful, and if you prefer not making use of a crazy amount of bottled water throughout the trek, they are a good idea, but otherwise you're going to find bottled water at reasonable prices throughout the trek and at every guest house, so up to you if you really need them. Number 3, this is my personal preference. I don't think you need a big down jacket. We talked about it earlier, layers is what is most important. So in my opinion, if you bring enough layers and a good variety of layers, you don't really need a big down jacket. This again is from my trip in early October. If you travel in November or later, then of course things may change. Finally, big boots. My personal choice for this kind of trek, since it's not technical at all, is low Gore-Tex waterproof trekking shoes. I think they are the best choice. They're versatile, they're waterproof, they're light, and they're very easy to walk in. If you're someone who loves big boots, feel free to go for them. I think they can still work well, but otherwise I think lower boots are certainly more versatile. And finally, guest houses. All of them were relatively clean and welcoming, some better equipped than others in terms of games and reading materials, but overall they were all quite nice. In terms of electricity, often you will find it in your room and it's free up to, I would say, Tengboche. And then they start having it only in the common area and often for a fee. A large power bank is fundamental. Get yourself maybe the big anchor that both my friend and I had that you can also bring up with you and carry on when you fly. In terms of showers, we stopped showering at Tengboche, so we went a good 4 or 5 days without showering. Temperatures get colder the higher you go, and hot showers are less common, especially if solar panels didn't get enough sun. So unless you shower as soon as you reach the guest house after a long trek, you won't be in the mood for a shower anyway. Wet wipes will often do the job when you're up high, so be prepared. Wi-Fi and phone signal. First of all, get yourself a Nepal Telecom SIM at the airport. It works better than Ncell and had signal for most of the trek, until probably Lobuche. Beside that, get yourself Wi-Fi access via Airlink and Starlink once you reach Tengboche, as it will be the best and only way to have signal from that moment on. I honestly hope that all these tips were useful, and bear in mind they are specific to our experience from early October 2025. The weather changes often, unexpected challenges will certainly present themselves, so don't expect your experience to be exactly like ours. Nonetheless, we wish all future trekkers the best. It's a heck of a journey with some of the best views that you can imagine. Prepare accordingly, be flexible, and enjoy the ride. And of course, if you have other questions, just place them in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Goodbye.